Hello, today I'd like to talk to you about the endocrine system. The endocrine system can be compared to a network of computers in an office. You have your server, and then your server is connected to a bunch of computers that are operated by employees, and they're connected via a fiber optic cable, and they send messages back and forth. And the whole purpose of sending messages back and forth is to maintain a smoothly operating business, and that's very much how your endocrine system works. You have your master gland in your brain. It's called the pituitary gland, and it pretty much controls. It tells all of your other glands what to produce, how much to produce, and the whole purpose is to maintain a balance or a homeostasis in your body. All of these messages are being sent back and forth through your bloodstream. So your gland secretes a hormone. The hormones enter the bloodstream, and then the hormones are captured by a hormone receptor at the other end, which tells that gland in turn how much hormone it should put out. All right, moving forward, let's talk about the pituitary gland. As mentioned before, the pituitary gland is located at the base of the brain, and it's attached to the hypothalamus by nerves and blood vessels. It's about the size of a pea, so it's pretty small. The pituitary gland is also called the master gland because it tells all of the other glands to release hormones as well as releasing its own hormones. If your pituitary gland is not working properly, it can affect your skin, energy levels, mood, reproduction, vision, growth, and so much more. The hormones in the pituitary gland are not produced in a steady stream, but rather in bursts of every 1 to 3 hours, alternating between periods of activity and inactivity. Next, we have the pineal gland. The pineal gland is also located inside of the brain, and it's kind of a small conical structure that extends from the third ventricle of the brain. It creates the hormone melatonin, and this is really important because the pineal gland also works with the pituitary gland. Remember how I said the pituitary gland works on a 1 to 3 hour cycle? Well, it's the melatonin from the pineal gland that helps keep that pituitary gland on its cycle. The main function of the pineal gland is to receive information from the light that's sensed within the inner retina of your eye. Being able to sense the light and the dark cycles stimulates the production of melatonin, which in turn creates a circadian rhythm or a sleep cycle. Dysfunctions of the pineal gland can be caused by pineal cell tumors and pineal cysts. Symptoms might include seizures, nausea, headache, visual changes, problems with memory recall, or Perinaud syndrome, which is the inability to move your eyes upward, like to literally look upward. It can also cause emotional disturbances. Other dysfunctions of the pineal gland might cause insomnia, abnormal thyroid function, anxiety, intestinal hyperactivity, low blood pressure, seasonal affective disorder, and abnormal adrenal functions. Thyroid. The thyroid secretes several hormones. However, the main hormone is called T4 or thyroxine. The thyroid hormones influence metabolism, growth, development, and body temperature. An imbalance of thyroid hormone during early child development can affect the body's growth and brain development. Some of the major thyroid dysfunctions are goiters, thyroiditis, hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, thyroid cancer, and thyroid nodules. Goiters are caused by a swelling of the thyroid. They can be harmless, or they can represent an iodine deficiency, which is why back in the 50s they started putting iodine in table salt, because pretty much everybody uses table salt, so it was an easy way to get a little bit of iodine in everybody's body and prevent goiters. Thyroid inflammation can also be caused by Hashimoto's thyroiditis. There are 4 parathyroid glands, and they are located around the thyroid gland at the base of the neck. They regulate blood calcium levels by secreting a hormone called parathyroid hormone, or PTH. Calcium is used to run our body's electrical systems as well as many other functions. Brittle bones, kidney stones, fatigue, weakness, and other problems can be attributed to a parathyroid dysfunction. The thymus is kind of a unique gland in and of itself. It's located in the chest between the lungs and behind the sternum. It's in front of and just above the heart, so about right here. The thymus produces a hormone called thymosin that works in conjunction with the body's immune system, and it helps with the production of T lymphocytes, also called T cells. The thymus does all of its work before we enter puberty and our teenage years. It gradually becomes less active and it shrinks and it becomes replaced with a fatty tissue. And that's what makes this particular gland set aside from all of the other ones, is that in adulthood, we've already used it to its fullest degree and it just kind of disappears. Adrenal glands are known as suprarenal glands. They are triangular in shape and they're located at the top of both kidneys. They regulate your metabolism, your immune system, your blood pressure, response to stress, and other essential functions. The adrenal glands produce cortisol, which is a glucocorticoid hormone that helps control the body's use of fat, proteins, and carbohydrates. It stops inflammation, it regulates your blood pressure, increases blood sugar, and can even decrease bone formation. Adrenal glands receive information from the pituitary gland, which reacts to signal from the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So basically, your hypothalamus produces a hormone called CRH. It stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete another hormone called ACTH. The ACTH then stimulates the adrenal glands to make the release of cortisol hormones into the blood. Normally, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland can sense whether the blood has the appropriate amount of cortisol circulating, but if there's too much or too little cortisol, these glands respectively change the amount of CRH and ACTH that gets released. This is referred to as a negative feedback loop. Excess cortisol production can occur from nodules in the adrenal gland or excess production of ACTH from a tumor in the pituitary gland or other sources. Other hormones created in the adrenal glands include aldosterone, which regulates your blood pressure and certain electrolytes, DHEA, androgenic steroid, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. The primary cause of adrenal dysfunction are caused by autoimmune disorders, fungal infections, and cancers. Genetics are rarely a factor. Next is the pancreas. The pancreas has an exocrine and an endocrine function, so it both aids in digestion, but it also helps you release insulin, which lowers your blood sugar, and glucagon to raise your blood sugar. So it's both digesting and it's regulating at the same time. When the pancreas is not functioning properly, you can become hypoglycemic, hyperglycemic, or if it happens for an extended amount of time, you might be type 2 diabetic. Type 1 diabetics don't produce insulin at all, so it's a totally different type of diabetes. Last but not least, we have our sexual reproduction organs, which also produce hormones. So we have the ovaries and the testes. The ovaries are part of the female reproductive system, and they're found in the lower part of the abdomen. They have two main functions. They create the oocyte, or the egg, and they produce reproductive hormones. The ovaries' function is controlled by the gonadotropin-releasing hormone in the hypothalamus, which sends their message to the pituitary gland to produce luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone. These hormones are carried through the bloodstream to control the menstrual cycle. The most common disorder of the ovaries is the polycystic ovary, or PCOS, which causes pain and reproductive insufficiency in approximately 5 to 10% of women of reproductive age. PCOS is caused when a follicle matures, but then it stops growing and fails to release an oocyte. All right, let's talk testicles. The testicles, or testes, are two oval-shaped organs located in the scrotum of a male's reproductive system. The testes produce testosterone, which is responsible for the sex drive, fertility, and the development of muscle and bone mass. Hyper and hypogonadism are reproductive disorders that are directly affected by the over- or underproduction of testosterone. Hypogonadism is more common than hypergonadism. What might hypergonadism look like? In infants, the genitals might not be clearly male, or both sets of genitals may be present. Teenagers may lack muscle development or have little body hair growth and have unusual arm or leg growth relative to the rest of their bodies. Adults with hypogonadism may lack fertility, they may grow breasts, they may have bone density loss, or they may lack the ability to achieve an erection. Hypogonadism can be treated with hormone replacement therapy that is aimed to the brain or the testes, depending on the source of the lacking testosterone production. I guess just in closing, the endocrine system is composed of 8 glands that secrete hormones into the bloodstream or the fluid surrounding cells. Receptors in various organs and tissues recognize and respond to these hormones. Mammals, birds, fish, and many other types of living organisms also have an endocrine system. 50 hormones have been identified in humans and other vertebrates. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation on the endocrine system.